Welcome back, my friends. We are here with more Not Your Mother's Goose, the home of the stories of your childhood and the current home of the Tournament of Disney Sidekicks. I'm Topher Goggin. We are just moments away from announcing the Overlooked 8, the last 8 sidekicks standing who will battle it out for our overall Disney Assistant's crown. Also on today's show, we'll crank up the pitch-o-meter with the music of Alvin and the Chipmunks, take another look at Rumpelstiltskin's Twitter feed, and our highly esteemed panel, or maybe that's hardly esteemed, but whoever they are, these supposed experts will weigh in with their cutting-edge analysis of the Sidekicks tournament action. Now, if you want to cast a Sidekicks vote, remember to head over to notyourmothersgoose.com where you will find the latest ballot embedded and ready to go. While you're there, be sure to check out the new Not Your Mother's Goose store. I'm still putting some final polish on it, but you can pick up the original Not Your Mother's Goose book or some of our hilarious greeting cards based on Rick Cunningham's fabulous cartoons. I'll tell you more about that on the next show, but I'd love for you to give it a try and let me know how everything is working. With that, we're ready to get rocking and rolling. Your Sidekicks tournament update is coming up next. We started with 24, now there are 8. It is time for what you've been waiting for, the announcement of the early round results in the Tournament of Disney Sidekicks. After over 1,500 votes so far, here is where we stand. Let's take this section by section, so we'll begin with the Disney Renaissance bracket. There, number 2, Timon and Pumbaa, will be trying to wish themselves past the overall tournament favorite, the number 1 seed Genie. Genie set the record for the biggest win of the early rounds, literally blowing out Lumiere and Cogsworth, with 81% of the vote in their second round battle. Timon and Pumbaa were similarly strong. They cast aside Hakuna Matata to take things seriously in a blowout of Mushu from Mulan. Mushu himself was involved in the most exciting match we've seen so far, coming back from a substantial early deficit to throw Sebastian into the cookpot with Les Poissons, he 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 ha ha ha. Shifting down to the villains side, that area of the bracket has been upset central. After Iago and Mr. Smee held serve in the first round, they came right back and won again in round 2. I'm not quite sure how it happened. Smee must have recruited TikTok to chase LeFou back to the tavern as he eked out a barn burner with 52% of the overall tally and a final margin of fewer than 35 votes. Now, though, it's a question of whether his time in the pirate world gives him any experience dealing with parrots, as he's stuck with loudmouth Iago in this round. Iago pulled off the most dramatic upset so far, holding the top-seeded Lion King Hyenas under the 40% mark and hitting a vote tally closing in on the volume of his own voice in decibels. Over on the right-hand side of the bracket, the smallish region has gone pretty much according to plan. Jiminy Cricket must have picked the wrong star to wish upon, since his opening win was followed by a bludgeoning at the hands, or maybe sticks, of Olaf. Olaf now has to contend with the occasional double-cross you'll see from Tinkerbell, who herself held off a feisty Edna Mode last week. Also, as a side note, my absolute favorite Facebook post about the whole tournament so far was someone who said, "Edna Mole won it for me." I am still envisioning some sort of blind mole wearing the Edna Mode glasses while nosing around a yard. Finally, we wrap up the action in the largest bracket, where Maui backed up his opening win over Doug by taking out the 2-seed Baymax. So we got the upset in that match, didn't get the one I thought we might see, because I honestly thought that Mater might hook up the toe strap and haul off Baloo, but the Big Bear held on in that one with 53% of the vote. So that is where we are. The last 8, the overlooked 8. Genie versus Timon and Pumbaa, Iago versus Smee, Olaf versus Tinkerbell, and Baloo versus Maui. We need your votes to make these decisions, so go right now to notyourmothersgoose.com and pick out your favorites. Then you can come back to the website each of the next 2 weeks to vote in the semis and finals. We'll have the overall winner for you on our next show here. Also, stay tuned today as we'll have some regular show stuff first, but our expert panel is waiting in the wings to analyze all of the tournament action for you. That's coming up in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tournament of Disney Sidekicks here on Not Your Mother's Goose. Alvin and the Chipmunks. When it comes to fictional bands, personally I am partial to Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem from The Muppet Show. But maybe they don't sing quite high enough for your liking. Actually, come to think of it, I'm not sure anyone can sing a lot higher than Janice and Zoot. Anyhow, but if that's not the high we're talking about, if we're in a musical sense, then unless we're dialing up some recordings of the Queen of the Night from the Magic Flute, we're going to need to hit some high notes with Alvin and the Chipmunks. Now, we could spend time getting into the technical nuts and bolts of your average Chipmunks recording. You may think that the Beatles were the pioneers of tricks and changing tape speed in the studio, but they got scooped by a few years by a bunch of rodents trying to make sure Christmas showed up on time. But rather than focus on that, we're going to put our effort into reviewing the Chipmunks' seminal work, which was their 80s television show. Try this concept on for size. We got a man in the music business, aspiring songwriter, producer, you name it, he does it all. But it's not Ryan Tedder from One Republic, it's your main man, David Seville. Now, he looks about as hip as Clark Kent if you traded in the glasses for a permanent blue pullover with a yellow shirt underneath. But while Mr. Rogers just had some pet fish and fed them every day, this besweatered bachelor must have checked a few incorrect boxes on the adoption application, and he soon finds himself raising 3 anthropomorphic castrati chipmunks. Of course, that's just the beginning. You might think that Disco Dave would be content to have his kidmunks do normal chipmunk things, like run around in his yard all day and knock over his bird feeder. Nope. He turns his crew into a trio of mischief-minded music makers who were one crossover episode away from being on a show called The Chipmunkies. As for individual personalities, Alvin was the ringleader and maestro of the group, qualifying as lead singer and the member most likely to be arrested. Simon was the brains of the operation and seemed like he belonged on a smarter show, maybe as one of the kids that helped Mr. Wizard with his science experiments. Speaking of people in sweaters. And then there was Theodore. That's it. That's all I've got for Theodore. In your average episode, Dave would book the gang for a gig, Alvin would cause a ruckus, Simon and Theodore would get roped in too, and they'd somehow sing their way out of trouble. That's about all you need to know. But what I do want to talk about is chipmunk fashion. First of all, this is becoming a common theme on our show. Characters with no pants. Donald Duck, Winnie the Pooh, the Chipmunks, you name it. Was there not a single animation school from 1930 to 1990 that taught the fine art of sketching trousers? Apparently not. And while that is bad enough, the Chipmunks take bad fashion to another level, wearing color-coded full-length muumuus that look like something between putting a 2XL turtleneck on a preschooler and the getup that your 90-year-old neighbor wears to bed. Theodore gets off easy with a teal-green ensemble, but Alvin goes with red and a big-ass yellow A on his chest that is pretty much an inverted Hester Prynne from the Scarlet Letter in clothing form. And then finally, we do need to talk about Simon. Simon is built like that one friend of yours who's like 80% torso, or Michael Phelps, I suppose. So he ends up looking like a giant royal blue paper towel roll. How these three became studly pop stars remains a mystery to me to this day, but I do think we know why David Seville ended up in music and not in fashion. No matter where you turn, the news keeps happening, but you can count on us to continue ignoring it and make up other stories instead. Here's the latest, and we begin by honoring the reports that July 31st, 2022 was apparently the day George Jetson was going to be born. George dons Jetson Stetson for episode with futuristic flying horses. Tigger, distressed to learn bank, charges bouncing fee. And from the motivational speaking world, Ugly Duckling inspires with TED Talk. Tears were flowing in the audience yesterday as the Neverland TED Convention came to a close with an inspirational presentation from keynote speaker, the Ugly Duckling. Now fully grown, the former duckling swooped in over the audience before strapping a lavalier mic on his wing and telling his inspirational story of growth from an outcast with a backwards beak to a successful career selling insurance for Aflac. The Duckling's emotional talk wrapped up a diverse day of presentations that began with Hansel and Gretel discussing their efforts to bring alternative navigation technology to underserved areas lacking internet access. Later, an 82-year-old Peter Pan delighted the packed house with lessons on how to use TikTok, though the Little Red Hen's discussion of how to inspire employees suffered from light attendance. Additionally, Lady Godiva's talk was canceled by organizers after learning a number of middle school boys had purchased tickets to her horseback riding demonstration. The summer travel season rolls on, but sometimes it's hard to know where to stay. Seeing how most fairy tale characters usually end up in terrible locations like some dungeon, they may not be the right people to ask. But we did anyway.
Hello, friends, the Prince here. You probably know my better half, the Princess, with her famous issues with peas. She and I spent a lot of time traveling now, and these hotels leave something to be desired. If you end up at, say, a Fairfield Inn by Marriott, it's just way too nice for your average fairy tale character. Fortunately for you, I have the answer. It's Fairyfield Inn by Mary at the front desk. And that must be Lazy Mary, since there's no way Mary Poppins is running a joint like this. We're not just talking about vegetables under the mattresses, no! Fairfield Inn has every possible aspect of terrible fairy tale lodging. Whether it's bar, black sheep, wool sheets lining every bed, or only offering curds and whey for room service, you're sure to be disappointed. Fairfield is a disaster right down to the details, like putting little boy Blue and his horn in charge of wake-up calls. You're definitely going to miss your meeting. You'll sleep like Frere Jacques at Fairyfield, unless there's a wolf in your bed when you check in. Not the first time. Anyway, take it from me, the Prince. If you want to travel like real fairy tale royalty, don't be calling some 4-star resort. Dial up the Fairyfield, where they've only got 1 star, and it doesn't even twinkle.
That's my cousin Derek, previously of WrestleMania ad fame, back now for the Fairyfield Inn. I'm sure you can book the Fairyfield on Hotwire, or perhaps Notwire. Now, we've got some more news to report. Let's get back to it. Mufasa contacts dermatologist to inquire about scar removal procedure. The Count sets record for most Amazon reviews written. Says it was just to count the stars. And from our theme park repairs bureau, Disney World hires Ghostbusters for Haunted Mansion renovation. Walt Disney World regularly renovates its attractions, so fans weren't surprised to see the Haunted Mansion show up on the list of upcoming temporary closures. What they didn't expect was to see a crew in hazmat suits and proton packs storming past the orange cones to ghostbust the mansion's spirit issues. Disney guests have complained about the building for years, claiming that it is infested with ghosts and ghouls, and noting that they seem way too happy for being dead. And while a Magic Kingdom spokesman sternly disputed claims that over 1,000 ghosts had infiltrated the building, it appears they're taking the problem seriously. Multiple Disney blogs reported that Dan Aykroyd was spotted in line for It's a Small World during a break, and photographs surfaced on Instagram showing Bill Murray toweling off ectoplasm in the nearby tangled bathrooms. Park officials have not announced how they plan to use the building in a dehaunted state, but travel experts expressed confidence that whatever it is will have a gift shop. Speaking of gift shops, rumors persist that Disney will make the corralled Haunted Mansion ghosts available for rent at Memento Mori, so guests can take them back to their resorts and haunt those folks in the adjoining room with the screaming toddlers. Wookie of the Year. It's time for another trip to the theater, and just like when you're standing in the ticket line at the multiplex agonizing over which of the 7 Adam Sandler movies to watch, I've been trying to figure out which before and after mashup we should take a look at today. We had a strong runner-up showing from The Jungle Book of Mormon, where Brother Baloo and Brother Mowgli go on a mission to the Man Village to spread the news of the bare necessities. Instead, though, I'm feeling like a sports movie is in order, so let's go watch Wookie of the Year. I figure any film that can turn Gary Busey into a Major League Baseballer is a good place to start. Also, I think at this point Star Wars is going to catch up to Robin Hood as the movie franchise most conducive to these jokes. We're going to double down with another one on the next show, so stay tuned. Here we go. It's another rough season for the Chicago Cubs. The team is mired in last place. Attendance has dropped to 4 dudes in the left field bleachers. Things are not good. Management meets to make a plan, but the options are limited. Either pay $1 billion or so to purchase the Dodgers roster, or give out $1 billion of free Wrigley's gum to lure the fans in. Finally, a third plan emerges. The team will go Savannah Bananas style and sign a player that spectators can't resist coming to see. Aaron Judge? It doesn't move the dial. Morgan Freeman? Getting closer. But how about Chewbacca? A 7-foot-tall furball on the mound. Now we're cooking with gas. Of course, the first problem is that nobody in the front office actually knows Chewbacca, and it's not like you can just stop by his lake house in Evanston and knock on the door. Eventually, a solution materializes when someone remembers that Lando Calrissian used to smuggle shipments of Doublemint gum over to Alderaan back in the day. That opens the door to negotiations, and Chewie agrees to come in for the rest of the season as long as the Cubs install a holographic chess game in the clubhouse. And let him win. The movie then tells the tale as Chewbacca and his mother, Chewmama, move to Lincoln Park and join the team. Chewie hasn't had any broken arms with tight healing tendons, and his hyperdrive is broken, so there aren't any 103-mile-an-hour fastballs to be found. Turns out this isn't much of a problem, however, as most batters prove content to swing and miss after Chewie pulverizes Juan Soto with a blaster on a home run trot during the Wookiees' first game. But where Chewbacca really excels, it turns out, is at the plate. Foregoing a Louisville Slugger in favor of a spare lightsaber he borrowed from Luke Skywalker, Chewie hits 78 home runs in his first 94 plate appearances and gives the phrase knocking the cover off the ball its most literal meaning ever. The Cubs go on a massive winning streak and soon find themselves threatening to make the playoffs. It all comes down to the last game of the year, a matchup with the Mets, who have responded to the Cubs by signing Darth Vader to their squad. Then, in a dastardly trick, the Metropolitans send home plate umpire Enrico Palazzo to the mound. Palazzo confiscates Chewie's blaster, supposedly in the name of protecting Queen Elizabeth, who happens to be attending the game. Unable to threaten the Mets batters with laser blasts, Chewbacca starts serving up gopher balls, and the margin on the scoreboard quickly tightens. It comes down to a final at-bat, bases loaded, 2 strikes, Vader at the plate. Unsure what to do, Chewie looks to Chewmama in the stands. She presses a secret button that activates the repaired hyperdrive in her son's arm, and he delivers a 186,000-mile-per-second fastball that leaves Vader standing there like the house by the side of the road. Palazzo ignores the giant hole where the ball has gone through his chest protector and dramatically rings Vader up on strikes, ending the game and sending the Cubs to the playoffs. Chewie celebrates as a hero, officially making this the #1 Star Wars baseball movie ever, at least until Ewoks in the Outfield comes out the next year. It's been a long time since we had the guts to venture out onto the fairy tale internet. Way back in episode 2, we took a look at Rumpelstiltskin's Twitter account. Let's do that again and see what the folks he's following have to say today. Alright, what do we got here? We've got Rapunzel at the @Hair4Days account. Looks like she may be becoming an influencer. I see. She says, I can't tell you how much I love this new Pantene Extra Body. Use code GOTHEL for 20% off and free shipping straight to your tower. Well, enjoy your new career, Rapunzel. Mr. Smee with a tweet from the It's Not You, It's Smee account. I don't think I'll ever get tired of that joke. He says, pro tip, next time don't ask Hook to lend me a hand. #wasn't happy. #time to swab the poop deck. Looks like we have a whole series of wolf tweets here. The Big Bad Wolf at Not That Big Bad Wolf. Okay, he tweets, my grandpa turned 107 today, blew out all the candles, no problem. #huff, #puff. But then that's followed by the account, The Official Big Bad Wolf, at The Other Big Bad Wolf, who tweets, just ate a 107-year-old grandma. #nom nom. And there's more wolf stuff, because we've got a tweet here from Simon LeBon. I guess Rumpelstiltskin must be a Duran Duran fan, and Simon LeBon is making like Carly Simon, saying, donate $25 for a chance to win handwritten lyrics to Hungry Like the Wolf and find out which wolf it's really about. #It's Not Big Bad. Proceeds benefit Boy Who Cried Foundation. All right. Aladdin weighs in. He's at Call Me Al, saying, getting old sucks. Gonna have to wish for new knees. #time for Aladdin's ramp. Who is this? All right, Linda McLaughlin at Gingerbread House Witch. I know who that is. She says, here's a new one tweeting from inside an oven. The brat pushed me in. Is it getting warm in here? Oh, okay, we've got Zazu, so tweets from the Pride Lands. Actually, he's retweeting Mufasa from the verified Not Darth account, who said, until further notice, we will be putting up a railing on Pride Rock. Hashtag no dangling, hashtag Rafiki, this means you. Ah, Humpty Dumpty, that probably means more safety. He tweets, thinking I should probably fill out a patient advocate document. Definitely checking the no medical treatment by horses box. What else do we have here? Okay, Bingo at That's My Name-o. He says, in case you were wondering, apparently you can't just go clap, 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 clap if you don't know the letters in a spelling bee. 6th grade, I should have tried that. Persuasion, it's an S, not a T at the end. Sneezy at My Nose Knows. He tweeted last time, if I remember. He says, Doc and I just filed copyright paperwork to sue Kermit the Frog for stealing Hi-Ho from us. That'll be some interesting litigation. Oh, and just like last time, Pinocchio as well, at My Nose Knows too. He says, here at SeaWorld, but not that impressed. When does the whale start swallowing people? Hashtag Monstro, hashtag I could do better. Lady at Mrs. Tramp says, got a call from the post office today. I love that they want to honor us, but I'm not sure I'd call it the Lady and the Tramp stamp. I have to agree with you there. What's this? Gaston, who of course has the at Big Biceps G account, says, just fired LeFou. I need a new assistant. I need a new helper. And then Mr. T replies, I pity LeFou. And let's see, here's the last one here. This will wrap this up. It's from Tarzan, of all people. And he says, loving this trip to LA. Did get a little confused by the directions to take Vine to Hollywood, though. Hashtag not that kind of Vine. Okay, here it comes. We've stalled as long as we could. It is time to roll out our expert Sidekicks panel, and let me tell you, they are a little on the cranky side this time. But they're about to give you their thoughts on the Sidekicks voting so far and what they expect coming up, plus take a few cheap shots at each other along the way. For the record, we recorded this last week while the votes were coming in, but all of our guesses of what would happen turned out to be correct, including Mr. Smee holding on to beat LeFou. Once again, if you're keeping track, here are the remaining competitors. Number 1, Genie against number 2, Timon and Pumbaa in the Disney Renaissance. In the villains bracket, it's number 3, Iago against number 4, Smee. We've got number 1, Olaf tangling versus number 2, Tinkerbell in the smallish bracket, and number 1, Baloo meeting number 4, Maui to be tops in the largest bracket. From 8 contestants, there can only be one winner, but the folks in this group are certainly not the folks to help you figure out who that might be. Welcome back. We have assembled yet another expert panel. If you'll notice from voices, a number of folks from our previous expert panels have refused to show up. But fear not, we have the mysterious Mr. S back with us. The voice who told you that Peter Pan is a great car ride over London has returned. Panel, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you are excited to be here.
Can hardly contain my excitement.
Thrilled.
Absolutely.
Let's immediately talk about the results from this latest round as we've now reached the Overlooked 8. This has been a round of upsets. We have seen Maui take out the number 2 seed Baymax in the largest bracket. We've seen Iago wipe out the hyenas completely. And we believe that Mr. Smee is going to knock off LeFou. That is very close right now, right down to the wire. But do we think that Smee's success comes from having previously taken a photo with one of our panelists?
That's a rumor, has not been confirmed, Topher.
Okay, so Smee does not admit to being photographed with you, but do you think he should knock off LeFou? And who do you think comes out of the villains bracket, assuming we have an Iago versus Smee final?
I think Smee versus LeFou is just a robbery. That matchup is just a tough one. I mean, those two, that should be the championship in that bracket.
I think that this is quite a close call because I think unprompted people could confuse them for being about the same character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they bring a lot of the same things to the table, so it's just a coin toss because you may not even know who you're voting for.
Certainly the same lack of height. Speaking of lack of height, Iago not particularly tall either, but going 1-on-3 against the Hyenas. Where have the Hyenas broken down here? They were a 1 seed, highly favored. They do a lot of dirty work for Scar, but Iago, who normally seems like a lot of talk and not a lot of action, looking like he's going to move on to this finale.
Yeah, it's the classic buy. I mean, they weren't focused. I mean, so they come in there just thinking that, they're going to walk through, and that's not happening.
There's no free lunch here, and obviously we saw that back in the first round where Mushu came from behind, knocks off Sebastian, but then gets steamrolled in the Renaissance bracket by Timon and Pumbaa. How do we think Timon and Pumbaa now move on against Genie? That feels like a marquee matchup.
Well, I think one panelist here forgot Timon and Pumbaa should even be involved, so that just really doesn't bode well at all.
That is true. Our new panelist was on the seating committee and did not rank Timon and Pumbaa anywhere amongst her top 20 sidekicks while attempting to do it from memory on a golf course, from what I understand.
I'm going to get myself in trouble because I'm going to pronounce stuff wrong. I had a character from that show.
Mufasa.
Zazu is who I had. To be honest, I thought you were supposed to just pick one. If I were picking between those two, I would have picked Zazu over Pumbaa and Timon. So.
And we saw how well Zazu fared in the first round, getting absolutely lit ablaze by Lumiere. Anybody surprised that Lumiere and Cogsworth didn't fare better against Genie? That was a rout.
No, Genie's looking to go all the way. All the way. Genie's marquee.
Jeff, that's bold.
What if Timon and Pumbaa do the hula? I mean, that's really one of their strong points.
And how does Genie hold up in the face of gas? Fumes could be an issue.
Especially if it's in the lamp, contained under pressure.
Right, I mean, you do that and then, you bring Lumiere off the sidelines and heat that lamp up. I mean, kaboom, I don't know. Let's jump over to the smallish region. We got another really strong one there. That's the one in the 2 seed, Olaf against Tinkerbell. I thought Jiminy Cricket might be able to put up a fight against Olaf. Didn't really happen.
I need to back up a minute because I need to speak on this Tinkerbell versus Edna Mode situation. This lady cannot get her emotions together. She is needy. Sometimes she's helpful when it's convenient for her, but I do not know how she brought down Edna Mode, who can arguably defy the laws of physics with her creations for The Incredibles. So I'm very upset by that.
Strongly agree with that.
I'd like to go up above and talk about Jiminy Cricket not advancing. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
I know they discontinued him as a voiceover for Wishes in 2017, but he had a 14-year run there, and he's a classic. Voters got it wrong.
Have we touched on what criteria are the voters even using? What makes a good sidekick at all? Do you look for talent? Do you look for loyalty? Do you look for cuteness?
Well, for the first round, it was only one upset. So they just went with the higher ranked person. I mean, that was very clear. Now this one, it's a complete opposite.
The second Banana 16, it was upset central. Let's switch down then into the largish bracket. That's Baloo and Maui. Baloo, I thought, might struggle a little bit with Mater, but has not gotten towed off screen. Baloo gets through with the bananas, but how's he going to fare against a demigod?
I'm still upset that Maui has taken down Baymax.
I am as well.
I don't know. Baymax, he is just selfless. Versus Maui is arguably, I mean, at the end, yeah, he comes around, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, but he's a pretty self-impressed son of a gun.
Really not engaged for most of the movie.
And is that possibly something that is helping competitors? Because we see a lot of that in Iago as well. I mean, maybe Iago's relying on his other resume things like running the Tiki Room for a short period of time, but we're talking about some self-promoters here that seem to be faring well.
I'm still confused. How's Baloo a 1 seed? He doesn't seem like he's got a lot.
That's a great question.
A lot special about him. He just kind of seems like a large mammal.
I'd like to sum up this segment by just saying that we're all in denial to talk too much about the future. So we just want to keep dragging up the past.
And I'm going to make you go to the future and look at the overlooked 8 here. Figure out who the choices are and tell me, how does this thing break the rest of the way? Who is your overall winner? Could a villain win it? Can anybody stop Genie?
I feel like Smee is the only shot.
Smee is the only shot for the villains, yes. Smee has a huge advantage in my book because he appears in the Peter Pan car ride over London. I mean, we literally see him.
So is Tinkerbell.
That's fair. No. See, obviously, the Peter Pan ride is carrying this entire bracket.
If only we still had Mr. Toad. Then the weasel could have been
Mr.
in.
Toad.
Oh, dear.
I think the only chance that Genie has of going down is if some type of specific rule gets invoked. Has somebody already used up their wishes? I think, honestly, the rest of the sidekicks, they need to band together to come up with a technicality to move past the Genie.
And Captain Vibber, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm staring at Olaf, and I just got a gut that just the popular vote's going to just keep advancing to the champion.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the always insightful analysis. We have learned that Mr. Smee is winning because he's in the Peter Pan ride, but maybe that applies to Tinkerbell and maybe not. And everyone else who won, it was a load of crap. And so thank you very much, panel. You've been insightful as always.
Glad to be here.
Thrilled, I think is the word.
Well, there you have it, according to these yahoos. The seating committee and the voters have no idea what they're talking about. This is why our panel is so well compensated. Now, at the end of the day, though, the panel's opinion, of course, does not matter. What matters is your votes, and we do need them to get down from 8 to 1. Head right now to notyourmothersgoose.com and vote in the quarterfinals, and you can also submit your email so you'll get notification when the next ballots go up. That is it for today's show. By the time we'll be back, we will have played down from 8 to 4 to 2 to 1 and can tell you the number one Disney associate. In addition, we'll have another Star Wars-ish before and after with the Book of Dumbo buffet. And we'll wrap up summer as Andrew Mitchell takes us to Margaritaville, or perhaps Wonderland, on Rapunzel's Jukebox. Until then, I'm Topher Goggin and the Goose is Loose. Find your way over to notyourmothersgoose.com, and I'll talk to you soon with more on Not Your Mother's Goose.